I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off road ability, as well as its robust interior, are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show.
Stockholm Art Museum robbed of $4 million in artwork, 10 under arrest. That's the on top of the title of the book, Heist, an inside look at the world's 100 greatest heists, cons, and capers by my good friend Pete Stegemeyer. Pete, why'd you write this book? I know we've talked about Heist before on the podcast. I know you're fascinated by it, but tell us again.
Oh man, so I actually I didn't plan on writing a book at first. I just really enjoyed doing my podcast, and then the publisher found my podcast, said this would make a great book, and then we came up with a plan to basically turn it into kind of like a daily reader kind of thing. So it's not the kind of book that you read through in one sitting, but it was fun to get to tell the story in a different medium of like some of my favorite heists and scams and things like that.
It's a great read. I mean, so many interesting things, and I'm curious. Right? Okay, I want to talk about some of these heists in particular, but and your heists include bank robberies, robberies of artwork, of diamonds, of books, even Bitcoin. Of course, everybody talks about Bitcoin heists. But if you were going to do a heist today, what would you do? Because I feel a bank is too difficult to rob.
I think a bank is too difficult, and also cash is too heavy. Like, you're going to get winded carrying even like $100,000 in cash.
Wait, are you out of shape, Pete? Like $100,000? That's 10 stacks of $10,000, and each stack is $100 bills.
So maybe not 100,000, but if you're like talking like a duffel bag full of cash, that's
Yeah.
I mean, you fill a duffel bag with newspaper, that's going to be more than you want to carry around. So for that, I feel like diamonds are probably the easiest way to go. But I guess if I could do my dream heist, I would rob a Freeport. Like probably like one of the ones in like Geneva or something like that.
What's that? What's a Freeport?
So Freeports they're kind of like a legal gray area, and they're these giant like warehouses. They're insanely secure, but they're basically areas where the ultra wealthy can store like artwork and kind of like imagine safe deposit boxes, but at an airport. And they're the size of office buildings or rooms. And this allows like the wealthy people to really use them as tax dodges, because if you buy a painting for $10 million and you just keep it in the free port, technically, like there's ways of like doing that so that like you never actually pay the tax on it. And so you just kind of sit there and it stores the value. You can sell it again at the free port to somebody else that just keeps it in their free port. And so there's like billions of dollars in art and jewelry and all sorts of things that just sit in these free ports where, all these masterpieces are basically nothing, but they're kind of like NFTs at that point.
And I guess the beauty of it is that they're already engaging in illegal activity because they're not reporting the transactions. So they're avoiding taxes. So it's hard for them to like call the police if they're robbed.
Exactly. And because they're technically like they have like special jurisdiction, they're typically on international airports. So sometimes you can get around like jurisdiction issues like that as well, because it's very hard to go in and because it's considered part of in transit because it's still at the airport.
So okay, let's plan this heist right now. So I'm trying to. There's free ports in the United Kingdom. There's a lot of free ports in the UK. There's all these maps for them. Let's say we're going to pick some random one. There's one in Plymouth. In the location of Plymouth, the free port's called Devonport. But how would you know which parts of the free port have like a lot of like art, like expensive artwork or whatever?
So typically for something like that, you might want to try renting space in a free port.
I see. So you have access and your face is seen and so on.
Right. Or if you want to like really protect yourself, you send somebody in your stead. Like we could send Jay and be like, hey,
Jay's up for it. Jay's got to earn his living.
And you could say, I've got these paintings that I want to like store here or whatever. And then you can kind of figure out how things work. And typically things like this are going to be like extraordinarily secure against pretty much every kind of threat. Like most of there's going to be Monets that survive like nuclear bombings in these places. But
how do they do that? Like what kind of storage is this?
So typically these buildings are like heavily fortified in terms of like concrete and other really strong, like very thick walls and things like that. But then they'll also have things like fire dampening systems so that in the event of a fire, all the oxygen just immediately gets like sucked out of the room so that like fires can't happen there. They're protected against like flooding. It's really, and then like there's access badging and stuff like that. So they would know that, okay, like Jay, came in here. He only has access to this. So it's very like, there's a lot of defense in depth is what we call it. Like a lot of different layers of security working together. But your first step would be trying to, get eyes on and figure out, how these places work, or try to find, a security guard that, thinks he could be getting paid more or something like that, and try to get your way inside that way.
That's tricky though, because can you ever really trust the guy if you're trying to turn a security guard?
No, it's really hard to do. Like that's why a lot of times you have to go like, you see in the movies and things like that, but it's not that much of a stretch where like, they have to, really try to get that person in a compromising position and, make them realize that, if you turn on me, like what's going to happen to you is worse than what's going to happen if the cops get you.
Right. It needs to be a combination of like blackmail and bribery.
Exactly. And but there's like that old saying too. It's like, if she'll cheat on you, she'll cheat with you. If she'll cheat with you, she'll cheat on you. And it's kind of the same thing with like security people. You really can't trust, if you're going to get somebody to betray their employer and do that, then chances are like they're not going to be as loyal to you either. If the cops come and offer them immunity, there's a good chance they're going to give you up.
And they might not have access to everything either. Like you'd have to get like a top person who has access to everything.
Exactly. And that's a big issue with it. Like that security guard might, be able to open this door, but then everything else is here. Or sometimes in cases like these, just like safety deposit boxes, that security guard might not have access to your specific or to your room, like because you create your own unique PIN. And they don't have that. So it's compartmentalizing the risk, which is a great strategy, but it makes it much harder to try to steal.
I feel like this might not be the best place to try our first heist together.
No, no, maybe not the first one, but that would be the dream to build up to.
What about like a Christie's or a Sotheby's, something like that?
So those are probably a bit more doable. There's a lot of um, similarly like fortified places like Harry Winston in Paris is a very secure jewelry store, but the Pink Panthers were able to hit that twice within the span of like 2-3 months.
Oh yeah, you had a good story about that in the book.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely possible. And anywhere there's people, there's a way to either manipulate or coerce them, or to there's if there's a will, there's a way.
I feel like, okay, here's a scenario. Let me run this by you. I'm making a pitch. So say you go to a Sotheby's auction and you see someone buying. You know who the art collectors are. You go to different art conferences. You know who the big collectors are. And sometimes these collectors probably store their art, but sometimes they just want to put the art up in their house because it's beautiful art. They're proud that they have a Monet or a Picasso, and they put it up there. And that's probably it's probably easier to rob their house. And I'm sure they've got all the security, but it's probably easier to rob that than like a Freeport.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's way easier to, once it's in the hands of like a private collector, that's typically going to be easier than the auction house, definitely easier than a Freeport. But then sometimes too, you can think outside the box, and criminals are starting to do this a lot where, do you want the Monet, or do you want the $150 million that the Monet is worth?
Well, I want the $150 million that the Monet is worth, which brings me to the next question. How do you sell it when everyone knows it's stolen?
So that is typically done through fences, and fences are basically like the pawnbrokers of the underworld. And again, they're very hard to find trustworthy ones, but typically they'll have pretty good relationships with people once they're working together for a while. And the best person to buy paintings is typically going to be the insurance company. So you'll see a lot of times like rewards for pieces. Like they'll be like, well, it's way easier to anonymously turn this in and get the reward money than it is to try to find somebody to buy this.
I see. So let's say, Mr. Art Buyer loses his Monet, through a heist, and it's insured for $50 million. You could sell it to the insurance company for $20 million probably. And it's probably easier to make that transaction. Like they wire to some invisible account somewhere and it's immediately wired out. It's untraceable. And actually, how do you pull that off? Like, how do you make sure that the art and the money happen at the same time? Like, how does the insurance company trust the people who did the crime?
So that's a very I think some of that I misspoke a little bit. A lot of times, like these like when I was like saying insurance companies, I was saying like you're going to get that $50 million from the insurance company, like if you can prove that it was like stolen and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of people that have paintings stolen so they can collect the insurance money, and then later on are able to buy the piece back quietly sometimes. But yeah, it's kind of hard to, because so much of the stuff like is like backroom dealings that it's hard to like really nail down like super specifics with that. But sometimes like reward money, like a lot of times these pieces are being held for like ransom against the reward money and things like that as well.
So yeah, again, I guess the best buyer is the person you stole from, because maybe he or she doesn't want to admit that it was stolen, or they want the painting. They spent $150 million on it. Maybe they'll buy it for $10 million, $15 million, and just a cost of doing business. And I guess they have to just figure out how to trust the criminal.
Yeah, that's definitely like one of the bigger ways to do that. A lot of times though, like the best thieves, or like the smartest thieves at least, will typically not steal something without a buyer lined up. So like sometimes people will steal on commission, and say, I want this specific piece. Like here's whatever the rate is going to be for it. And so if you could do that, if you have a buyer lined up, or if you have like a fence that you can trust to be able to move stuff, like those are typically going to be the better ones to try to go to, because it's very hard to, like, not a lot of people are going to steal like a Monet without having an end game for it first.
Well, like, why would anyone buy a stolen Monet when everybody in the world is going to know that it's stolen?
Well, I guess that's kind of the definition of like fuck you money. If you're wealthy enough to have the ability to do that, like I think some people don't care, but then also because art is such a store of value, they can sometimes use it for that as well.
Even though it's been stolen, like if you're discovered with a stolen piece of art, do you have to just return it to the original owner?
So that is a fascinating question, and there's no clear answer on that. Depending on the provenance of the piece. So, like a good example is there was a group of people that stole they kind of stole. You're actually going to love this because it's the most efficient way to do it. They didn't even bother stealing the painting. They just intercepted the transaction and were able to like steal the money for the purchase of the painting.
How were they able to do that? Like what happened?
So they actually employed what we call a business email compromise, where they were able to send a phishing email to an auction house, get the person to click on something or download something and install, a backdoor for them to get into their networks. And then they just kind of sat on the networks watching traffic come in and out and being like, okay, this Thomas Constable landscape is going to go up for auction here. Here's the buyers and stuff like that we're thinking about. And then they were basically able to, from that, from the auction houses or from the gallery's own email address, like send something out and say, hey, like, I know you're purchasing this painting today. We just changed the account that the funds are going to be wired to. Please send it to this. And so they did. And they got the money, they took off, and now there's like a big legal question about this gallery, paid for the painting. They had an agreement, they sent the money, like they did all the due diligence on their part, and the gallery is like, well, or the previous owner is like, well, we didn't get the money for it. And so now the painting is actually being held like basically in escrow until legally they can determine who gets to have that painting.
That's ridiculous. The auction house should totally take responsibility. Or whoever was the intermediary. Who was the intermediary here?
The auction house.
Yeah, so they should totally take responsibility for this.
I agree. Like if your cybersecurity is not up to snuff to the point where you get taken for, $20 million, I think this one was, that's on you. Like security costs money. But yeah, like there are sometimes like legal issues with that. There's a car in Milwaukee that was like a 1937 Talbot coupe, and it's like beautiful. It's called the Teardrop, and somebody was that was a little bit more of a complex case where somebody broke in, stole the car, and then came back and stole like the person had like a second Talbot. That was basically just a parts car that he would sell, this fender to this antique dealer because it's very hard to get these cars. And he was like, oh, I'd love to buy this like car from you, for scrap or whatever. And like got a title signed by the person who had the car stolen from him, but he didn't, but basically forged the document. So it looked like he purchased the Teardrop car outright from this guy, and so he had a clean title and things like that, but the car was stolen. And so that one is also still in a legal limbo because that's like we don't really know. Like it gets tricky. Like criminals are getting very, very crafty with this stuff.
Like what's the most, you write about a lot of heists that are current and some historical. What's the most sophisticated, and then I have some questions about some specific ones, but what's the most sophisticated, like well done heist you've seen?
I would have to say the Antwerp diamond heist was definitely up there. That one should absolutely be a movie.
Can you describe it?
Absolutely. The Antwerp diamond heist was pulled off by a group of thieves known as the School of Turin, which is just a great name for a group of thieves anyways. But their leader was an Italian man named Leonardo Notarbartolo, and he set up an office in Antwerp. They have, just like New York City has a diamond district, Antwerp has the Diamond Exchange, which is their diamond district, and basically the diamond district for all of Europe. And so he set up a jewelry or like a jeweler's office and things like that. And like we mentioned before with like the Freeports, had a safe deposit box in the Diamond Exchange. So he could go in there, multiple times a day, put things in, take things out, make himself known, get the trust of the people. But he was also, very carefully like identifying, because I think they had like 10 different layers of security on their vault. It was really, really impressive. And so he was able to hire a master key forger, an electronics expert, and a couple other just like top level thieves. They ended up breaking in to this insanely complex safe. Like they installed like little pinhole cameras to see what the combination on the safe was as people were doing it. He actually ended up using a can of hairspray the day of the heist. He like went in and sprayed the thermal sensors with just like suave hairspray, and that coated the sensors so that they couldn't pick up heat. And then there was a magnetic sensor on the door, so they taped that all together so that the magnets never separated, and then just like stuck another magnet with that like to the wall of the vault, so that when they opened up the vault door, it still registered as closed. Like they had to do a lot of really out of the box thinking with this one. In order to be able to get into this vault, and like two of the keys were like a foot long, that this guy had to like make copies of, and it was just absolutely like mind-blowing engineering.
And there wasn't one of these things like in the Diamond District in New York, if you go into someone's, place where they're storing diamonds, you have to go in a door that locks behind you, and then someone in the other room unlocks the next door. There wasn't anything like that to...
There was, but they managed to get past those doors as well, because like one of their keymaker was known as the King of Keys. He was actually the only person ever caught in this. Like there's basically just enough evidence like from him to know that he exists, but not to like identify him.
And so what happened? Then what happened?
So this one is actually really funny, because as sophisticated as this crowd, as this gang of thieves was, one of the people in their crew was this guy whose nickname was Speedy, and he was not a very talented thief. He was just kind of there. They had him drive the car sometimes, but he started freaking out. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna get caught," and they basically on the getaway drive back to Italy, he like stopped the car and started dumping out all the trash that they had disposed of, and he's like, "Oh, we're just on like some random roadside in Italy." But ironically enough, like this particular like road where they were on, where he was dumping the trash, was like a problem area for the farmer who owned the land, because people were always dumping trash there. And so he saw them and called the police, and then they came and saw, envelopes that said Antwerp Diamond District, and they were able to find a piece of salami and a receipt for like a corner store for salami. And so this little piece of sandwich and the receipt gave them enough to like go and like check the security cameras. They saw like this really tall guy known as the Monster buy the salami, and from there they were able to kind of, that was the thread that they were able to keep pulling on, and they arrested everybody except the King of Keys.
When they arrested them, did they get all the diamonds back?
No, they got some of the diamonds back, but they did not recover all of them. And because it was nonviolent crimes, a lot of these people are already out of jail now and probably just have stashed potentially hundreds of millions of dollars.
I always wonder, like, how many people are alive who they're living in some resort area, they're keeping a low profile, and they never made a dime in their lives, and then they made like 15 million on some extraordinary heist, and that's the rest of their life.
It's gotta be a good number, actually. Like I think the smart ones are the ones that do it once and then just retire off of that.
Yeah. Now there was one story you wrote that was intriguing. It was the Transylvania book It was like a heist from a library.
Yes. That one actually, Transylvania University in, I believe it's Lexington, Kentucky. So there's like University of Kentucky, UK, and then there's also Transylvania University.
I would never let my kids apply to Transylvania University. That's just like the worst name.
It's such a weird, like, but I think that was like that part of Kentucky was originally like, I think Jefferson wanted to call the region Transylvania. Um, but like one of the things that's really unique about that school is they have an incredible rare book collection. And some of the books that they had a first edition of On the Origin of Species by Darwin, but they also had a complete set of Audubon's Birds of America. And like this is first edition, hand painted by James Audubon, and the books are enormous. I think each book weighed 75 pounds, and there was a set of 4 of them. Um, and so these kids got the brilliant idea. They're like, well, this book alone is worth millions of dollars. Let's just go steal these books.
And so again, I'm gonna ask, like, if you have the first edition On the Origin of Species, who's gonna buy that knowing it was stolen? Like, it's obviously gonna be stolen.
Well, they actually tried to fence it through Christie's, and Christie's was able to smell them from a mile away. Like they drove up to New York, had a meeting, and they're like, these teenagers, like they said that it was like their uncle died and like left it to them. But like pretty much the second they walked out, Christie's called the cops and like these guys have stolen material.
So like, how could you fence something like that? Like, what do you do? Is there like a dark web for this sort of thing, or?
So this one is actually really interesting. You could try to do it on the dark web, but again, like it's very hard to verify that what you're buying is authentic. And so one of the thieves here, he somehow was able to find people online in Amsterdam willing to buy the book, but their stipulation, because again it's hard to verify things, was we'll buy it if you can get like Christie's or Sotheby's or somebody legitimate to verify its authenticity. And if that happens, we'll pay you, $5 million or whatever the price they had worked out was.
But they went to Christie's. Could they have gone to anyone else, like a private verifier?
They might have been able to, but I think it had to be like Christie's or Sotheby's or like whatever, like some similar tier, just because they're putting the reputation on those books, and that's the kind of like guarantee that you need if you're going to buy something illegal.
So they, I guess they knew who the librarian was. They were going to the school, these students. They knew the librarian was. What happened then?
So they came up with a plan, and this is like just such a brilliant like college idiot plan. And so they basically came up with an idea to go and go up there, stun the librarian, take the books, and kind of head down. But they waited until the week of finals, which is a terrible time because they also wanted to graduate. Like they were about to graduate, and they're like, well, we can't like risk our semester. And so they waited until everybody at the school was at the library. It's like the worst possible time.
Yeah.
Finals, like college gets up, but then they're like, oh, we need disguises. So they tried to dress up as old men. And the first time they like walked into the library, their disguises were so bad that everybody just like immediately like stared at them and was like, what is up with these guys? And so they ended up like leaving because they're like, everybody is watching us because their disguises are so bad. So they waited until the next day to try again. And then at that point, one of them went upstairs, made an appointment to view this book because you had to have an appointment to see the rare book collection. And once he was with the librarian, a second thief came in. They used like a stun pen, and they were able to subdue this woman, and like handcuffed or zip tied her on the floor and things like that to try to steal the books. And then one of the problems too is her name was everybody called her BJ, And so they're like, it's going to be okay, BJ. And so she's like, well, this is clearly like a student at the school because they call me BJ.
No, but wait, how did the student make an appointment? Wouldn't he have to use his name to make an appointment?
He did use his name.
So that's another pretty big
Yeah,
indicator.
that was another big indicator. And there was another, somebody else tried to make an appointment using a pseudonym, but they did that with their dad's cell phone number and with a Yahoo email address that was also like very traceable back to like their family's.
So like,
internet.
were these people just like really stupid? Like, why would you make an appointment in your own name where you're planning on robbing something right then? Like, that is beyond stupid.
They didn't think about anything at all. Like they were very dumb. It was a miracle they got as far as they did.
I mean, did they think so? So they think they would sell On the Origin of Species and it wouldn't matter what their name was? They would just disappear?
Well, I don't know that they really thought that far ahead of it. I think what they thought was we just had to steal these books, get them to Christie's, and then get them to Amsterdam. And so they tried to take like some basic steps. Like he created a fake email address as well to try to do some of the communication, but he was doing it from his dad's cell phone plan. And so like all the call records and stuff like that, they just called his dad and they're like, hey, like we know you're in New York. And it was over very quickly.
Man, I guess while they were doing this robbery, though, someone saw them, right, and chased them.
Yes, multiple people saw them. So there was an elevator, and they also like they didn't really have like a plan. So they had like backpacks that they stuffed some of the books into once BJ was subdued. But they had to use bed sheets to try to steal the Audubon books because they were so large. And so now you've got 70 or I think like almost 300 pounds of books. If there's 4 75-pound books, like in a bed sheet that they're trying to drag to the stairs, and then the elevator opens up. They see like another assistant librarian who realizes like this is not right, and so they try to like run and flee, and they get lost and basically run through campus looking for the getaway van. And then they get in the van. The getaway driver panics because he borrowed his mom's car for this, and like basically was like, you guys have to get out. Like I have to like get this car back to my mom in 20 minutes. And so he kicks him out in like a rough part of town. And then these guys who had managed to still steal probably $500,000 in books because they had the Darwin book. They had a couple other first editions like with them that they ended up taking to Christie's in New York. But they almost got robbed just walking around the neighborhood because they're like, what are these guys doing? And so they had to run out of this neighborhood and like find their friends again. The whole thing was like a comedy movie.
But they still made it to Christie's.
They did make it to Christie's because they told their parents they were going snowboarding for the weekend. So they just drove straight up, had this appointment, and like they tried to like dress in like little flashy suits and stuff like that and be like my representative, and like they tried to like pretend they were super important and representing like the estate of their beloved dead uncle. And Christie's is just like, these weird kids for sure stole some stuff and called the police.
Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional, and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and or cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet. I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com. You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues to or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors.
So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get 2 memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply.
You wrote about the Harry Winston in Paris, where I guess the thieves somehow stayed overnight in a stairwell. They were able to get into a stairwell and not get caught, and stayed overnight. Is that possible to do? Like, if I go to a jewelry store, I could just hang out in the stairwell and they'll lock up?
I mean, it is possible, but you would probably have to do what they did, which was bribe one of the security guards. And so
right.
the security guard was able to let them in, and then they just sat there basically until the morning, because Harry Winston also had a compartmentalized defense in depth procedure, to where like the store managers, like the opening team, didn't have the keys. So they had to, like, they had a security guard open the door for them, so they didn't have the actual keys to the outside, and then that manager had to go into their office and grab like the safe keys and then start unlocking everything. So each person only had one key, so they had to wait for the right person to come, and then they were able to overpower the manager, take the keys, and start the robbery.
And then what happened?
So for this one, they actually they ended up like spraying down the stairwell to cover DNA evidence with a fire extinguisher.
Mm-hmm.
But they were able to basically, I forget the exact dollar amount, but they stole millions of dollars in diamonds.
I think you said 136 million.
I
That
think
might be a different one.
it might be that might be the second one, but because they hit him again like pretty shortly after, but they were able to basically overpower this manager, open the safe, steal a bunch of different, luxury timepieces, diamonds, and things like that. Get everything from like the display cases that were about to be put out, because all of that stuff is stored in the safe. And then they took off. And then a couple months after that, I think it might have been like 6 weeks, they came back dressed as women. And knocked on the door, got inside during business hours right before close. And one of the attackers actually like reached into his purse and pulled out a hand grenade.
Wow.
And then was able to get upstairs into the office. And this is another one where they had to have an inside, like some sort of inside person, because they even knew about the false bottom of the safe, where this particularly large green diamond was being held. And they were able to pull that one off as well.
And what happened to them?
With that one, I'm trying to remember. I believe a couple people did get arrested for that, because I know that one of the thieves said the other thief's name. Like
Fareed, I think.
Yeah, Fareed. He was like, "We got to go, Fareed." But the other person just called themselves Voldemort, because they were smart enough to have a secret identity. And even better if it's, the name you should not say. And
yeah.
And so they basically were able to identify this Fareed individual. I'm trying to remember exactly how.
Oh yeah, they had the security guard, right? They had an inside guy, and the police noticed that this is the one guy who wasn't hurt when they broke in both times.
Exactly, and that person was the because they had security guards on random shifts. This was the security guard working both times, so that they figured out pretty quickly it could not be a coincidence.
Now, it must be easier to sell diamonds that you steal, because unless it's like a big green diamond and called the famous green diamond, like other diamonds sort of look like, okay, it's just 30 carats of diamonds, it's cut. Unless it's really special,
it's not going to be noticed by.
Well, there are some, like, that's typically true. It's also way easier to store huge amounts of money in diamonds. Like, you can fit $1 billion in diamonds probably in, like, if you're wearing cargo pants easily. But like if you're just wearing jeans, you can, millions of dollars without anybody even noticing. Um, but some of the diamonds nowadays, like they're starting to protect them by laser etching serial numbers inside the diamond. And so a lot of times what's happening, especially with like these larger stones, is they're getting stolen. But then in order to be able to, to move them, they actually have to recut and like downsize them. So you might take, a 10 diamond or 10 carat diamond, and in order to make sure that like the serial number is gone or that it's not like traceable by carat weight or any of the other identifying factors, like, it might, by the time it's done, be a 6 carat diamond.
I see. So, but still, they're getting a lot of money from these things. Although, diamonds are sort of weird because they don't really retain their sale value. They're sort of marked up by the jeweler from the beginning. So you have to, if $1 million diamond might only be worth like $50,000, $100,000 wholesale.
Exactly. And so, so finding the right buyers is typically a big process of that. And I don't know if I should say this or not, but I'm going to. Did you see the Tinder swindler?
I didn't actually. I want to see that. I heard it's good.
It's very good. But one of the identities, because this guy is a con man, and like one of the identities that he like claims to, to be, is the son of a Russian like jeweler named Lev Lviv. And there is speculation, and I'm trying to say this very definitively so I don't get killed, because it tends to happen. But there's a lot of people that suspect that perhaps that jewelry house is involved in a lot of illegal activities, and like because they were also hit by a Pink Panthers heist, and then somebody kind of noticed and had, like, the secretary fell out of a window. But there's like a lot of rumors that, like, these diamonds are like getting stolen, the insurance money is being collected, and then they're being recut because this person moves so many diamonds that, it doesn't notice it, or it doesn't really register because they're like, of course this guy has, a bunch of diamonds.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So you've researched so many of these heists and robberies and everything. Again, what do you think you would do? It seems like if you had to rob an institution like a bank, an art gallery, one of these free ports, that's too difficult because security is their job. Like their whole job is to secure this wealthy stuff. But it seems like the customers, again, might not be as secure in their homes or whatever, whether it's jewelry or art or something, anything of value. So it seems like that would be, if you were going to do a physical robbery as opposed to like a cyber heist, which you just also talk about cyber heist as well. But if you're going to do a physical robbery, it seems like a home robbery is the best.
Home robberies are probably the best, just in terms of you'd have to find the right homes and things like that. But museums are also like shockingly easy to steal from.
Like, well, how would you steal from a museum?
So, like some of them, like if you wanted to steal like from the Met, for example, in New York, those paintings, like they're not bolted to the wall. So if you're able to, hide in a bathroom or stay after hours or something like that, you'd still have to, have like getaway things take it like into consideration. So you might have to have like somebody like pull up at like the right time and stuff like that. But a lot of those you can just, basically walk up to the art, take it off the wall, and maybe cut like a steel wire, because they don't want to risk damage to the paintings themselves. Like and because they get moved for like restorations and things like that, sometimes like they're not actually like glued to the walls.
Or, it made me think like near the museums, there are people who are framers who frame the art for the museums. I would think even better to go to a framer.
Anytime that something is in transit, that is the best time to hit it. So if it's getting framed at the framer's going to have worse security than the museum is. So if you can get it while it's at the framer or on its way from the framer to the museum, that's a good way to do it. If there's like a restoration shop, those are like, very valuable targets because they could potentially be working on, several high dollar items, and typically the restoration shops are again not going to have museum level security.
I feel though like the smoothest heists these days are cyber. Like if you could basically convince somebody about your Nigerian airport, for instance, and you write about that, that's like the best way to do something. I've almost been fooled by one of those, like a very high level, like 7-figure, 8-figure number, not to me personally, but like to a hedge fund that I knew about. And only at the last minute, I was able to help them avoid getting scammed. Like somebody claimed to have Twitter shares that he wanted to sell. This was before Twitter went public. So he wanted to sell these Twitter shares at a big discount to where Twitter was going to eventually go public. It all sounds ridiculous in retrospect, but he claimed to be the son of a doctor to one of these Saudi kings or whatever. And he produced paperwork and evidence, that the Twitter shares were his. But then I knew the CFO of Twitter, so the hedge fund asked me to call the CFO, and he had no idea what was going on. So we kind of knew that the scam was happening.
Yeah, it's crazy how often stuff like that happens. Like even just in the past 2 weeks, like you really have to be careful with that stuff. There's been so many like that. That almost sounds again like business email compromise, but that's it's kind of your computer science background. So,
Yeah.
one of the first things you do is you map the data flow and you figure out, okay, these pieces of this program interact with this, and this is how it gets there. And if you can figure out how to insert yourself into that flow somehow, like based on like the timing and things like that, it's happening a lot because people, one thing that's happening is like hackers are getting much more patient. And so a lot of times they're sitting on networks, sometimes for a year or two without being detected. And just kind of figuring out, okay, like this person is going to make this transaction or this event is happening in the news. And they just really at this point have to wait for the right time.
Yeah, wow. It's very interesting. I mean, have you had people contact you either because they wanted your advice on making a heist, or they want to make a movie and they want you as a consultant?
I've been reached out for a couple projects like that. Luckily, it has been more of like the consulting than it has been like people asking me to commit crimes. But there's definitely no shortage of that, and there's also like I've helped a couple businesses that were like clearly about to get scammed by somebody, like friends of family that were talking about like, oh, this is weird. I'm like, oh, you need to stop right now, because if you hit that button, like you're out like thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's scary how much of that is going on. Like, apparently, I don't know, there's some like ridiculous number of emails that come out of, let's say, Nigeria. They have a specific name for these scams, so I'll just use Nigeria. It's like a 409 or 419 scam because that's the code in the law. And it's these emails like, oh, I'm the son of a Nigerian prince who died, but now I need some money to unlock 20 million, which I'll share with you. But they send out like millions of emails and per one successful hit.
Well, I mean, it really is just a numbers game because they don't have to be sophisticated. Like it's better when they are like, but it's a volume game. Like even like the old emails that you would get for like off market like Viagra or Cialis that you were getting like thousands of like phishing and like spam emails. Like somebody is clicking on those. Like somebody doesn't realize that this like strange looking email that they didn't sign up for is a scam. They just, care about getting this medication for, $20 cheaper, or whatever the case is. And only one person has to do it. You get a couple $100, but these people, if you can get 0.1% to do it, but you're sending out 10 million emails instantaneously, that's,
That's 10,000 email successes. So let's say you make $100 on each one. That's $10 million.
Yeah. And you don't even have to like try that hard.
So
Let me see. I have a bunch of these heists bookmarked. There was the Super Bowl ring one, but that was done by the same people that did another one. I forget which one.
Yeah, they did a bank heist in Ohio where they started all the money on fire.
Oh yeah, that's right. But they still got away with $3 million cash.
They did. It's crazy though, because that was like mostly coins that they were able to get away with, which is like, I don't even know what you do with $3 million in coins. I don't think I'd want it.
What do you do with a Super Bowl ring? Again, there's the question of like, who do you sell a Super Bowl ring to?
Well, for that, I mean, there's a few things with that. Like you could, most likely those were going to get smelted down because if that's pure gold and like each diamond, I think for those ones like they had like 45 diamonds in them, or like different precious stones. Like you can scrap all of that and like make it easier to move. You're not going to be able to sell it as a Super Bowl ring, but you can sell it as the materials for the Super Bowl rings.
Gosh, that seems like a hard way to make a little bit of gold. 'Cause how much gold is there?
Yeah, I mean, for something like that, probably like maybe 2 ounces would be my guess.
That's not a lot. So it's probably better ways to steal gold. So you should like write a novel, like or a movie script or something with your knowledge of heists. Like you could probably plan a pretty good one.
I would love to do that. That might actually be the next project I start working on. Is just trying to figure out like a fun way to do it.
Like, what about all there's a whole bunch of gold underneath the Federal Reserve in New York City. Like, so no one's ever tried to get that, I guess, because it's buried underground. But
yeah, that one is like, that was my favorite Die Hard movie, actually.
Oh, I didn't even know it was a Die Hard movie.
Yeah,
I just know about the gold.
But like the vault for the Federal Reserve, I actually used to work there.
You're kidding?
No, that was my first information security job. But like the vault there is like insane. Like it really would take an act of war to get in there. Because they really don't play around with that. And it's like the entire vault rotates. So it's not like you have a vault door. It's like the entire vault rotates within the building to be able to access it.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, what any other heist come to mind that are like super sophisticated and the guys made off with $1 billion? What's the biggest heist people have escaped with that you know of?
Oh, as far as escape, that's a good question. Because I feel like the key word there is that you know of, because there's definitely people that have done huge heists, but then you never hear about them because they were very smart.
Right.
There's been a lot of crypto exchanges lately. Like I don't know if that counts as, that's less of a heist. That's more of like fraud. But a lot of these people are starting cryptocurrency exchanges, and then they're just taking off with all the money.
That's definitely happened like in the NFT world, where people will do a whole NFT drop, raise a whole like millions of dollars, and then literally admit, like they'll say, "Thanks everybody, we're out."
Yeah, it's crazy how much that's changing the world of crime. Because for years, like Bernie Madoff was the guy for like the largest financial fraud in history, at least that like people knew about. Like,
yeah,
and he stole, I think like, what was it, like $5 billion or close to it?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
But now, like this year, there was a crypto exchange fraud that's like they're still figuring out, but it was like a 20-year-old woman who had like a failed YouTube rapping career.
Yeah.
And she is now responsible for the largest financial crime in human history.
Yeah, I mean the actual heist was in 2016, but of course, crypto has gone up a lot since then. So it was originally like a $60 million heist, and it's turned into a $4.5 billion heist. But the problem with, not the problem, but the issue with crypto is that it's actually harder than people think to launder, because everybody can see, because all transactions are recorded along something called the blockchain. People could see where the money went. And so they had to figure out how to move it without, letting people know who they are.
Exactly. And that's because that was always the big thing. And they're like, oh, it's anonymous. So like, yeah, but anonymous or anonymity and privacy are not the same thing.
Right.
So it's, everybody knows like this account, like that's why NFTs were like outed so quickly for being scams, because people were able to very quickly figure out, okay, wallet number A just, purchased this NFT for $20 million. And then immediately wallet number A wired the money back to this other wallet that keeps doing this. And so they were able to figure out that all these NFT guys were basically inflating the prices by buying the NFTs from themselves. And then they could be like, oh, well, I've got a $20 million NFT, but I suppose I could let it go for $2 million to try to, but the blockchain, it keeps the receipts, and people are able to just look and be like, well, I can see that you bought it from yourself, or that somebody bought it and then gave themselves the money back. Like, even if I can't prove it was you, I know what happened.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. This is one that I unfortunately was a victim of this is like 2016 or something, where it seemed like a legit project. This guy was creating his own cryptocurrency that was going to be what's called a stable coin. It was going to be linked to a basket of currencies. So it seemed like a really interesting project. He raised $200 million. And then like 6 months later, he said, listen, we're not able to make this, too many regulatory issues, whatever. We're going to return 99% of it. We're going to turn 190 million to you. We raised 200 million. We're going to turn 190. And so no one complained, because they got, it's very rare something doesn't work out and you get almost all of your money back. So everybody got like 90% of their money back. But then there's always the question, what did they do with that 10 million? Like that's a lot of money still. But like for me, I had only put in like a very small amount, so it didn't matter to me. But some of the bigger investors were asking the question, and there's no answers.
Yeah.
The guys just said like, oh, we hired developers, it's gone. So
that's so fun. Like, what's so funny about that, like, I'm sorry that happened to you, but it's just amazing to see how people continually reskin old scams.
Yeah.
Because that scam itself was pulled off by Victor Lustig, who's my favorite con man of all time. He pulled that exact same con on Al Capone for fun, because like he was on the run from Europe because he had sold the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal twice. So he was like, I need to cool off in the U.S. for a little bit, and was going around committing a bunch of crimes. And he gets to Chicago, and he's like, I bet I could steal money from Al Capone. So he goes up to him like with this like business plan, because he was also like a prolific counterfeiter. And he was like, I've got this idea. I need a $50,000 investment from you to be able to make this work, but I can give you like, 200% back in like 3 months or whatever the stakes were. And he just sits on the money for like 2 months. And then he comes back to him and says, I'm so sorry. The arrangements that I had fell through. I'm not going to be able to do this, but I wanted to tell you in person and give you your money back because, I would never cheat you, Al Capone. And like basically did this whole sob story about like how like trying to do this like financially ruined him. And Al Capone felt so bad for him that he gave him $5,000.
Oh my God.
And then he just walked out with like $5,000 of Al Capone's money, just clean. Like, and he just did it for the love of the grift. So it's always fun to see like how these things, because like the Nigerian email scams are just a reskin of like what used to be called the Spanish prisoner scam, where people would pretend like, oh, well, I'm writing on behalf of the Spanish prisoner, Prince whatever. He's looking for people, like kind of like when Napoleon was on Elba trying to gather an army of the faithful. Mm-hmm. And so these people would like try to lend money to get the Spanish prince's favor. And then same thing happened in Nigeria. And now it's an email. And it's the same 5 scams.
I wonder if we'll hear about, like, after all of this Ukrainian Russia stuff is hopefully over soon, I wonder if we'll hear about scams relating to the Ukrainian charities and so on. I mean, I don't think their Ukrainian charity is a scam. I'm not saying that. I'm saying people posing here as representing a charity might be a scam.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely already happening. It's going to be crazy to see which ones.
Yeah.
By and large, but that's a guarantee. Anytime there's a tragedy, people are going to try to, like, that's why, like, I GoFundMe shouldn't exist. Like I get the need for it and stuff like that, but so many people use it to try to, to commit some sort of fraud.
Yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of restaurants and comedy clubs were doing GoFundMe's. Hey, support our employees, but there would just be like one employee who was setting it up, and I wonder how many of those the money actually got distributed to all the employees.
Oh yeah, probably. There were probably a bunch of people that were able to just cut the money and like run with it.
Yeah. Well, Pete Stegemeyer, Stegemeyer. I'm spelling it out because you could buy your book, Heist, an inside look at the world's 100 greatest heists, cons, and capers, from burglaries to bank jobs and everything in between. You could buy it on Amazon or wherever you buy books. This is a nice cover, actually. You could buy this. This is nicely printed up, also.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was really happy with it. It was such a cool thing to get to be able to work on, especially because I didn't plan on it. It just kind of fell in my lap. But like sometimes like you get opportunities, you just got to run with it and see what happens.
You know so much now, you got to write like a script or an outline or something to use this.
I definitely will. Yeah, I'll definitely, like, I think that's going to be the next, because I've got a couple ideas.
All right. Well, thanks once again, Pete, for coming on the podcast. And anytime you want to come on and discuss current heists or anything like that, just let me know. And you're always a welcome guest.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being back here. It was a great time.
Thank you, Pete.
All right. Thank you.